So it's quite specific because we're not a fintech trying to disrupt the system. We are the system. We are part of the financial institution that make the system work.
So, in light of the recent downturn in the market, I just want to make a formal attempt to give you all some optimism and some perspectives, some realistic perspectives from people with valid credentials, not hopium, hypist on the internet, talking up a project or, putting their personal opinions behind it. People that work at the most systemically important organizations and have held some of the most highest regulatory positions on this planet that we all live on. So we're going to be listening to the likes of individual representatives from Euroclear today, ex-CFTC chair representatives, and some other very large asset management firms and just people that hold positions at these large institutions. And I want you to really specifically listen to what they say because some of this information blew my mind, and it's just crazy that these videos have no views. So shout out to the CYPRX researchers for everything you guys are going to see today. They are constantly dropping gems inside the Discord. If anybody is new in this community, definitely make sure you're checking out this crypto conference section. Like some of the best videos for projects that I've never even heard about that industry leading experts and big institutions are adopting are in this section. When you have time, I know that it's a lot, listen to them, but these are all the panel discussions that everybody in crypto should be listening to, but for some odd reason, literally completely ignore. And they're all here. I don't think that we've missed one single hidden conference that nobody's heard about. The researchers find them magically. I have no idea how, but they do. All right. So definitely go and check these out. So the first one that I'm going to play is, of course, I played this in a previous video, but in case you haven't heard it, this is the ex-CFTC chair, Chris Giancarlo, and listen to what he says about this market downturn and how we shouldn't be fearful of it, and instead we should see it as an opportunity.
This is an innovator-rich environment. Now, on the other side is crypto prices are down. That's not a bad thing, actually. I think that's actually perhaps if we're in a real innovation cycle, that's a good thing. The value will come later when all of this innovation actually finds its use case and its addressable market and becomes part of the fabric of our financial system.
And so I want to show you all that this is happening in real time, and people with systemically important credentials are telling us this right now. While all of this is going on and everybody's fearful and the markets are down, people are looking at this as a bad thing, when in reality, it's a blessing in disguise. So Canton leading the charge in that just announced yesterday, June 17th, 2026. And people have already covered this. People being other influencers on the internet have already made this like a big deal and posted about it on Twitter. But I want you all to really focus on who and what these institutions and organizations are, because they are the biggest financial giants and they're choosing Canton. So DRW, HiFi, and Merex advance on-chain repo on the Canton network. We're not going to thoroughly read through this entire thing, but it does say here, repo is the funding layer beneath the U.S. capital markets, supplying the short-term cash that keeps trading and settlement moving. The U.S. repo market averages 12.6 trillion in daily outstanding exposures. So that's 12.6 trillion daily. That would be insane. We're not going to do any bullish Moonboy Hopium stuff, but just think about those numbers and where we're at now. That's 12.6 trillion daily, not annually. So annually, that's like insane numbers. And then down here, what I said about focusing on these conglomerates that are choosing Canton, look at this Merex company here. It says the group provides comprehensive breadth and depth of coverage across 4 services. It's a clearing agency and execution, market making and hedge and investment solutions, and it is a leading franchise in many major metals, energy, and agriculture products with access to more than 60 exchanges. It says Merex has over 3,400 active clients, including some of the largest commodity producers, consumers and traders, banks, hedge funds, and asset managers, with more than 50 offices worldwide. The group has over 3,000 employees across Europe, Asia, and Americas. And they're again choosing to partner with Canton. So that was one example from this week. Then, if we come over here, 113 views. Listen to this gentleman from Euroclear.
We are joined by Jorgen Wakning, the Global Head of Innovation and Digital Assets at Euroclear. Jorgen, Euroclear sits at the heart of global capital markets. What role are you playing in shaping the evolution of the digital markets infrastructure?
So, as you mentioned, we are a global financial market infrastructure. And to give you a sense of scale, we have more than 40 trillion of euro of assets under custody, and we process every month the equivalent of the world GDP. So we sit at the very unique intersection between
trust, scale, and global markets. And what we're doing with digital assets is not just experimenting in new technology. It's actually redefining how these global markets works at scale while maintaining robustness, efficiency, and what clients expect from us. So it's quite specific because we're not a fintech trying to disrupt the system. We are the system. We are part of the financial institution that make the system work. So our responsibility when it comes to digital assets is to translate that and this innovation into something that is safe, scalable, and usable by our clients, which include the world's largest financial institutions.
Y'all, this dude just said that they are the fucking system. Okay. He just said that they are an organization that processes the world's GDP in 1 month. Okay. And this has 113 views. So the people that systemically run everything that all the little people out there, us, run on is telling us what? What is he telling us? Well, let's check this out. Because the other day, a panel was shared where this gentleman was on stage, has 39 views, June 17th. Again, shout out to the researchers for this juice. Listen to what this dude says and what network he's specifically talking about. He's not talking about any other network. He's talking about Canton. And
It's the same guy.
it's the same guy, right? He's the same guy. It's not a different dude. Like this is him, right? And so listen to what he says about Canton here. Check this out.
You are on the board of Canton, but maybe what led you to even finding out about Canton, and then what was kind of like the aha moment where you're like, okay, I will do this?
You mentioned aha moment, and the only aha moment I know as a proud Norwegian is when Morten Harket just sung "Take on Me." But let's rewind a little bit before going direct into Canton. I think what was super important is everything that happened over the past years. And if you go back like 5-6 years ago, the basic narrative was a blockchain is going to replace everything. And then I think every year since then, it was the year where digital assets are going to scale and everything will be tokenized. And then we heard a big story about disruption and disintermediation. And, there's something that happened and that's went unnoticed. Is that all the intermediaries, all the banks, all the custodians, all the infrastructure that were supposed to be disrupted, they became the network. They became the network because they started to be very active. They participated not in experimentation, but in production, and then joined somehow the Canton Foundation. And that's how you basically create this huge network. And then
he's literally saying that the entire narrative over the past couple of years was blockchain's going to rule them all. And instead, all these institutions teamed up together and joined the Canton network. Right? Listen, this is crazy. So all the narratives that we've been fed over the last years about all these blockchains, all these institutions chose Canton. Look.
They became the network because they started to be very active. They participated not in experimentation, but in production, and then joined somehow the Canton Foundation. And that's how you basically create this huge network. And I got connected with Canton 5 years ago. Like most of us, when Yuval approached us, and he has an amazing vision, and he's sharing it with huge passion. And basically, when you understand how different the network is, and what it brings specifically to financial institution and to the institutional world, well, you got quite excited about that.
5 years ago. 5 years ago was 2021, y'all. We didn't hear about Canton in this community till 2023. Didn't get to invest in it till the coin launched a year after that. So the whole entire time, and I'm again not on other layer ones because I hold other layer ones in my portfolio, but the whole entire time the narrative was this, and that, and bullish move way, this, and that. Canton was sitting in the background in 2021 when everything else was in a bear market, partnering with giants like Euroclear. That's the way that I see it. And how he just confirmed that all these large institutions joined the Canton Foundation to build this global network is just more confirmation from a systemically important person. Because again, this is like the same dude that has credentials almost similar to Nadine Chakar, where she's probably not walking around able to text just willy-nilly anybody. She's probably got multiple cell phones, certain cell phones people can talk to her on, and people like certain communication lines she can call and can't call. This dude's the same, I guarantee you, the same way. So let's continue to listen to what he says. He was asked the question how Canton compares to other networks.
This incredible technology and not launching because everything you mentioned has happened, and you need somehow to be at the right moment, at the right place, with the right condition to be able to get to the momentum that we're witnessing today.
Maybe dialing it back to before you kind of talked about Canton, but what is kind of the thesis in your mind and why it exists and how it compares to maybe other networks out there who argue they're focusing on the same thing?
So, this is not going to be a conversation, private, public. I think, where it's long overdue. And I think all the public blockchain, what they have brought to the industry is pretty incredible in terms of innovation. And blockchain, sold the decentralization scarcity. Ethereum brought amazing thing around programmable assets. Stablecoin is most probably one of the biggest financial innovation you can have. But when you operate specifically in a regulated financial institution, you need to have coordination, privacy, finality, interoperability, and institutional controls. And if you look at most of the chains, they were not built initially for finance. These are general purpose chains that somehow adapted later on to the financial needs. Canton was specifically built for regulated financial institution, taking into account privacy, composability, and interoperability by design. It's not a feature, it's a requirement. It's built in, it's not bolted on, and that makes a huge difference.
So again, you got the gentleman from Euroclear. He's not shitting on other chains, but he's literally like, look, Canton was built like this from day one and didn't have to bolt it on later on to adhere to what financial institutions needed. They built it specifically for these financial institutions, which is why these conglomerates are now choosing Canton. So let's continue. Last one where he said, I caught these words where he said, this aligns with what Christopher Giancarlo said, that this is an opportunity. Why ignore it? Listen to what he says here.
Specifically feature built in, again, privacy and chains that are specifically built for some use cases. So there's a place to win for everyone. But when you want to have chains that are specifically built for financial institution with key requirements, not feature built in, again, privacy, interoperability, composability, and strong controls, well, you have a preferred place for business.
What specific inefficiencies right now in traditional capital markets are you hearing from these institutional players that they want to fix currently? They're tired of it being, decades old, and they see this technology as something that could actually fix it.
I'm going to be fair with the traditional finance. It's working well. It's doing extremely well.
So what's the point then?
Well, let's get to that.
Yeah.
But if you think about major FMIs, they process more than $1 quadrillion a month. They have several, DTCC has around 115 trillions of assets under custody. If you look at the big commercial banks, some of them process like 12 trillion US dollar a day. That works at scale. You have to think about it like a dual track. First of all, we have an opportunity, an unprecedented opportunity to basically move to the next digital frontier. Why pass on that? You could still decide to upgrade the current infrastructure, but why not future-proof the business? Because there seems to be a convergence of every major institution, every regulator, every part of the value chain willing to go on that direction. So there's going to be a huge transformation, and sometimes the real innovation is the smart contract. Usually the smart contracts can be compared to the contract what the smart.
So anyways, I just wanted you all to hear that. That was bullish as heck, y'all. Like, you got the dude from Euroclear saying, look, this is a huge opportunity. Why not? Why not? So I thought that you all would enjoy those little tiny clips. Now let's roll over to this one. This is again from Proof of Talk. I forgot to give a shout out to all these platforms. You got Coinage that did this interview. You got the Global Blockchain Business Council that did this one, and then Coinage, Proof of Talk that did this one. So 20 views on this one. And here you have David Palmer, who is the co-founder of frickin' Vodafone, right? Vodafone is a huge tech conglomerate for mobile carriers, if I'm not mistaken. I'll go over that in just a second. Then you have Luca Berlando, who is the head of infrastructure at Republic. So who are we listening to? That's important because we're not just going to listen to anybody. Vodafone is a massive multinational telecommunications powerhouse operating networks across Europe and Africa. Telecom giants generate, or this giant generates approximately $40 billion in euro revenue, manages around 275 million wireless subscribers, and employs nearly 100,000 people globally. So it's a huge telecom conglomerate, right? This organization here, Republic, says here, Republic is a financial tech firm specializing in private market investment services. Republic has deployed over $2.6 billion in investments, supports over 2,500 ventures, with a community of over 3 million users across 150 countries. So again, you have two very large organizations and the billions of dollars, worth the billions of dollars, talking about Canton. Listen to what they say here. Let's listen to, I have a couple of clips which I'm going to play. I had a couple of video clips of them mentioning how they first adopted R3 and how they're going to transition out, but let's go to 17 minutes because I'm kind of running out of time here. But let's play this. Let's listen to what this guy says at 17.
But now we have reached a stage where the largest protocols, including Canton, but also Ethereum, Solana, and so on, don't pose that career risk anymore. So people are more daring and willing to invest the time and effort in it, and to also be somewhat evangelizing these protocols.
So I like that because he went on to mention that there's no more career risk to invest in these protocols, right? He mentioned a couple, and again, we're a multi-chain ecosystem and we support a multi-chain ecosystem here at CYPRX. We're definitely not biased, but that was just great to hear. You have a financial conglomerate sitting on stage confirming like, hey, look, there's no more career risk to invest in these huge major layer ones. So from a retail standpoint, when the market's fearful like this and everybody's like, oh my God, I got to sell my bags to get out of crypto. Yet here we are looking at a $2.5 billion company that's like, look, why are you worried about getting involved now? I see that as a massive opportunity. Okay. So let's listen to continue.
I mean, I think I alluded to it in the first answer. It's the regulatory side, it's the compliance side. These are the things that have been the catalyst to get these things to fruition now. What we've seen with Canton, though, is just the broader adoption and momentum that takes place when you have a substantial number of large institutions who are all having a coordinated effort to find a way to finally have this global interoperability, this composability, thanks to the privacy and compliance that Canton enables. So other stacks have tried this before. We've seen iterations from R3 Corda, private permission DLT instances, they're isolated environments running on their own infrastructure. We finally gotten to the point where global institutions are looking at decentralization, the broader aspects of infrastructure distribution globally that actually can provide significant benefits to security guarantees and counterparty risk on this side. So I think when we're looking at Canton and why we're seeing this moment these days, we've gotten to this point over a decade of all the flaws and mistakes and pilots, and these are learning experiences to finally get to the phase where now we can start bringing these things into production and we can start having them work together in conjunction with, all of these pilots finally coming into mainnet iterations, which is basically what we're seeing out of the last year. And over the next 6 months, there are substantial and very exciting things to be announced as well that are coming to fruition. So I guess we can all, wait excitedly on what these drops are going to be on. You can break NDAs.
You all see that? He just said NDAs. This is the dude Heslam Kim from Zenith, right? And look at the dude from Telcom sitting there freaking laughing. Look at all them smiling and laughing. He said in the next 6 months, right now we're about to enter out of this testing phase. in the next 6 months, we're really going to start to see some things pop off. Now, again, I'm not sitting here saying that that's going to result in price action, but we're going to start to see more financial institutions voice what they're doing in this space. And I guarantee you that's going to revolve around testing and operating on the Canton network to an extent. So that was phenomenal. Then last but not least, they say here we're entering into a Canton era.
In big corporations, banks, for example, couldn't go on the public blockchain because of the sanctions risk. For example, I think we, in a relatively short period of time, we started to overcome those hurdles one by one. We've hardened our solution. I think a lot of the questions they were asking were valid. And I think we're, right now in this sort of Canton era where we're starting to see institutions really get serious about this. I think it's the right time.
Right. So they are specifically talking about Canton. This is a conference that was, of course, endorsed and supported by Canton, if I'm not mistaken, as one of the supporters. And there they are on stage saying we're entering into a Canton era. So, if Canton gets mass adopted like Ethereum does, and we go to, Ethereum was trading at a freaking 500 to $700 billion market cap. And in my personal opinion, from an institutional perspective, institutions that handle multi trillions of dollars is working with Canton. To think that one day Canton couldn't do similar numbers, if not more, is, I think, a fool's bet. And I would rather be on the side of history where if I'm right about my speculation by watching these systemically important people, like none of this that I just showed you guys, this is not a bullish Moonboy hype. I'm not telling y'all this date Canton's going to be worth thousands of dollars like all these dumbass moon boys out there. No, I'm showing you guys systemically important people with valid credentials talking about Canton. So again, because we're in this digital era and this information goes relatively unnoticed and is literally scrapped on the internet, shout out to the researchers for keeping us in the loop with what matters. I'm buckling down. I'm taking advantage of any further discounts on Canton's price, not financial advice. Or if we just trade at where we're currently sitting at now, I've been steadily dollar cost averaging into this bad boy, because when it rips past 20, 30, 40, 50 cents, I would love to be a part of the future where I say, you know what, I was buying this bag when it was freaking 6 to 17 cents, right? And that's my risk, right? That's my risk tolerance, not financial advice. I'm here to just show you guys information. What you do with it is up to you.